What if the woman everyone called Lagos's perfect bride was secretly a monster who destroyed lives behind closed doors? What if a poor maid from Nnewi, with nothing but courage, became the one person who dared to stop her? And what if that single moment of bravery exposed a crime so dark it would shatter a billionaire's world forever? This is Elmerum Stories, where African folktales and life-changing lessons unfold. Subscribe, like, and comment. Now let's begin. The sun was setting over Lekki Phase 1, casting golden light across the massive glass windows of the Okafor mansion. Inside, the air conditioning hummed softly, and the smell of fresh flowers filled the grand entrance hall. This was the home of Obinna Okafor, one of Lagos's youngest tech billionaires. At 32, he had built an empire from coding software in a small room in Surulere. Now, his company employed over 500 people, and his face graced the covers of business magazines across West Africa. But Obinna was not like other billionaires. He was known for his humility. He visited orphanages in Mushin, donated generators to hospitals in Ajagunal, and always greeted his security guards by name. People loved him, and soon, he would marry the woman everyone said was perfect for him, Vanessa Uche, the beautiful daughter of Chief Bartholomew Uche, a retired oil magnate from Enugu. Vanessa was stunning. Her skin glowed like polished bronze, her smile could light up any room, and her designer dresses turned heads at every Lagos society event. She spoke 3 languages fluently, had studied in London, and carried herself with the grace of royalty. To the outside world, Obinna and Vanessa were the golden couple. Their wedding was set for December, and the entire city was already buzzing with anticipation. But inside the Okafor mansion, behind the locked doors and drawn curtains, a different story unfolded. The house staff knew the truth. They whispered it in the kitchen when Vanessa was out. They exchanged fearful glances when her car pulled into the driveway. Vanessa Uche was not the angel the world believed her to be. She was a terror, a nightmare dressed in Chanel and diamonds. The cook, Mama Ngozi, had been slapped across the face for burning jollof rice. The gardener, Tund, had been called a useless fool for trimming the hedges too short. The housekeeper, Blessing, had been threatened with dismissal for folding towels the wrong way. And none of them dared to speak up. They needed their jobs. They had families to feed, children in school, rents to pay. So they endured Vanessa's cruelty in silence, praying that Obinna would never leave them alone with her for too long. Then, on a humid Tuesday morning in October, everything changed. A new maid arrived. Her name was Chiamaka Okoro, and she had traveled all the way from Nnewi, in Amber State. She was 24 years old, with dark eyes that held quiet strength and hands roughened from years of farm work. She wore a simple Ankara wrapper and carried a small bag containing everything she owned. Chiamaka had been hired through an agency after the previous maid quit without explanation. She needed the job desperately. Her mother was sick, her younger brother was in secondary school, and her family's small provision shop was drowning in debt. Mama Ngozi met Chiamaka at the gate and led her inside. As they walked through the gleaming marble hallways, the older woman spoke in low, urgent tones. "Listen to me, my daughter," Mama Ngozi whispered. "You seem like a good girl. So I will tell you the truth. When Ogo Obinna is here, everything is fine. He is a kind man, a good man. But when Madame Vanessa is here alone with us..." She paused, glancing around nervously. "Just stay out of her way. Do your work quietly. Don't look her in the eye. Don't speak unless she asks you a question. And whatever you do, don't ever offend her." Chiamaka nodded slowly, but something in her chest tightened. She had grown up in a village where respect was sacred, but cruelty was never tolerated. She wondered what kind of woman could make grown adults tremble like frightened children. She found out 3 days later. It was a Friday afternoon. Obinna had traveled to Abuja for a business meeting and wouldn't return until evening. Vanessa had spent the morning at a spa in Victoria Island and returned to the mansion in a foul mood. She stormed through the front door, her designer heels clicking sharply against the floor, and immediately began barking orders. "Where is my bracelet?" she demanded, her voice echoing through the house. "The diamond one I left on the dresser." The staff scattered to search for it. Chiamaka, who had been dusting the guest room upstairs, hurried down to help. She had never even been inside Vanessa's bedroom, but she joined the others in checking every surface, every drawer, every corner. After 20 minutes of frantic searching, Vanessa stood in the center of the living room, her face twisted with rage. Her eyes swept over the trembling staff, and then they landed on Chiamaka. "You," Vanessa said coldly. "The new girl. You took it, didn't you?" Chiamaka's heart stopped. "Ma, I did not. Don't lie to me." Vanessa's voice rose to a shriek. "You're the only new person here. You probably thought you could steal from me and run back to your village." The other staff members lowered their eyes. No one dared to defend Chiamaka. They had learned long ago that defending anyone only made Vanessa angrier. Chiamaka stood tall, her voice steady despite the fear rising in her throat. "Ma, I swear on my mother's life, I did not touch your bracelet. I have never even entered your room." Vanessa's face darkened. She stepped forward, her hand raised high, ready to deliver a stinging slap across Chiamaka's face. But Chiamaka did not flinch, and she did not bow. Instead, in a movement that seemed to freeze time itself, Chiamaka reached up and caught Vanessa's wrist in midair. The room fell silent. Mama Ngozi gasped. Tun's eyes went wide. No one had ever dared to touch Vanessa. No one had ever stood up to her. "I will not let you hit me for something I did not do," Chiamaka said quietly, her voice firm but respectful. "I am not a thief." Vanessa's mouth opened in shock and fury. But before she could scream, the front door swung open. Obinna walked in, still dressed in his suit from the Abuja meeting. And beside him, moving slowly with the aid of a walking stick, was an elderly woman with kind eyes and graying hair wrapped in a purple headscarf. "Mama Nkechi." Vanessa's face went pale. The rage drained from her features, replaced by something Chiamaka had never seen before. Pure, unfiltered fear. Obinna's gaze swept across the frozen scene. Chiamaka holding Vanessa's wrist, the staff cowering in the background, the fury still burning in his fiancée's eyes. "What," he said slowly, his voice low and dangerous, "is going on here?" The silence in the living room was suffocating. Chiamaka slowly released Vanessa's wrist and stepped back, her heart pounding in her chest. She knew what this looked like. A village maid holding the hand of Lagos's most celebrated socialite. She would be fired. Worse, she might be arrested. But something strange was happening. Obinna was not looking at Chiamaka with anger. He was looking at Vanessa. And in his eyes, there was something cold. Something that resembled doubt. Mama Nkechi moved forward, her walking stick tapping softly against the marble floor. She was in her 70s, a woman who had raised Vanessa from childhood after her mother died. She had been Vanessa's nanny, her teacher, her guardian. Everyone in Enugu knew Mama Nkechi as the woman who had molded the perfect Vanessa Uche. "My daughter," Mama Nkechi said gently, her voice laced with sorrow. "What have you done?" Vanessa's lips trembled. She opened her mouth to speak, but no words came out. For the first time since Chiamaka had arrived, the untouchable queen of the mansion looked vulnerable. Small. Guilty. Obinna turned to Mama Ngozi. "Tell me the truth," he said. "All of it." The older cook hesitated, wringing her hands. She glanced at Vanessa, then at Obinna, and finally at Chiamaka, who stood quietly with her head slightly bowed, but her shoulders still straight. "Oga," Mama Ngozi began, her voice shaking. We have been suffering. Madam Vanessa, when you are not here, she treats us badly. Very badly. She insults us. She threatens us. She has hit some of us. We kept quiet because we need this work. We have nowhere else to go." Tun nodded from the corner. Blessing, the housekeeper, wiped tears from her eyes. One by one, the staff confirmed the story that had been buried in fear for months. Obinna's jaw tightened. He looked at Vanessa, and for the first time, she could not meet his gaze. "Is this true?" he asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Vanessa's eyes filled with tears, but they were not tears of remorse. They were tears of anger at being exposed. "Obinna, they are exaggerating. You know how these people can be. They're trying to turn you against me because—" "Don't," Obinna said sharply. "Don't lie to me, Vanessa." Mama Nkechi sighed deeply and lowered herself into a chair. "Obinna, my son, I came here today because I needed to speak with you. I had hoped to find you alone, but perhaps God has arranged this moment for a reason." She looked at Vanessa with eyes full of pain. 3 weeks ago, I received a letter. An anonymous letter. It told me things I did not want to believe. Things about Vanessa's past. Things I had tried to forget. Vanessa's face went rigid. "Mama, please." "No, my daughter," Mama Nkechi said firmly. It is time for the truth. She turned to Obinna. When Vanessa was 19, she was living with me in Enugu while attending university. We had a young housemaid, a girl from a village near Nsukka. Her name was Adiz. She was 16 years old, hardworking, respectful. One day, Vanessa accused her of stealing a gold necklace. Chiamaka felt a chill run down her spine. The story was eerily familiar. Mama Nkechi continued, her voice growing heavier. Adiz begged. She cried. She swore she had not taken anything. But Vanessa insisted. She made such a scene that I called the police. They came and searched Adiz. They found nothing. But Vanessa would not let it go. She convinced her father, Chief Uche, that the girl must have hidden the necklace somewhere. Chief Uche was furious. He had the girl locked in a room in our boys' quarters for 2 days while they investigated. Obinna's face had gone pale. What happened to her? Mama Nkechi's voice broke. On the 3rd day, we found her collapsed. She had stopped eating, stopped drinking. The trauma, the fear, the shame, it broke something inside her. We rushed her to the hospital, but she died 2 days later. The doctors said it was a combination of dehydration, shock, and a heart condition no one knew she had. The room seemed to shrink. Chiamaka felt tears prick her eyes. She thought of her own mother, her own brother, and how easily this could have been her story. And the necklace? Obinna asked quietly. Mama Nkechi looked at Vanessa. It was found a week later. In Vanessa's jewelry box. She had misplaced it herself. Vanessa stood frozen, her fists clenched at her sides. It was an accident, she whispered. I didn't mean for her to die. I didn't know she would. You knew she was suffering, Mama Nkechi said, her voice hard now. You knew, and you did nothing. Your father paid the girl's family to stay quiet. We buried the story with money and shame. And I prayed, that you had learned, that you had changed. She shook her head. But you have not. You are still the same. Obinna ran a hand over his face. He looked at Chiamaka, at the woman who had dared to stop history from repeating itself. Thank you, he said softly, for standing up, for not allowing this to happen again. Chiamaka nodded, unsure of what else to say. But the story was not over. The sound of a car pulling into the compound made everyone turn toward the door. Moments later, Chief Bartholomew Uche entered, his face grim and worn. He was a large man, dressed in an expensive agbada, but today he looked smaller somehow. Older. Obinna, Chief Uche said heavily. I came as soon as I heard Mama Nkechi was here. I knew this day would come. He looked at his daughter with a mixture of love and disappointment. Vanessa, we need to talk. All of us. He glanced at the staff. Please, give us the room. The workers quickly filed out, grateful to escape. Chiamaka moved to follow, but Obinna held up a hand. Stay, he said. You were part of this. You deserve to hear the truth. Chief Uche sat down slowly, his hands resting on his knees. Obinna, my son, I came here to tell you something I should have told you months ago. But I was afraid. Afraid you would call off the wedding. Afraid my daughter would be exposed. He paused. But a man came to see me last week. A young man from Nsukka. His name is Emeka Okoro. Chiamaka's breath caught. Okoro. Her family name. But she had no relatives in Nsukka. Or did she? Chief Uche continued. Emeka is Adiz's younger brother. He was only 10 years old when she died. He has spent the last 8 years searching for the truth about what happened to his sister. And now he knows. He knows everything. Vanessa's face crumpled. Papa, please. He is outside, Chief Uche said quietly. He followed me here. He wants to speak with you, Vanessa. He wants justice. Obinna stood. Let him in. Chief Uche nodded and walked to the door. A moment later, a young man stepped inside. He was lean, with sharp eyes and a face carved from grief and determination. He wore a simple shirt and jeans, and in his hand, he carried a worn envelope. He looked at Vanessa, and she looked away. My name is Emeka Okoro, he said, his voice steady but filled with emotion. And I am here for my sister. Emeka stood in the center of the room, his presence commanding despite his simple clothing. He did not raise his voice. He did not threaten. But the weight of his words filled every corner of the mansion. My sister's name was Adiz Okoro, he began, his eyes fixed on Vanessa. She was 16 years old when she died. She was kind. She was hardworking. She sent money home every month to help our mother pay for my school fees. She had dreams of becoming a nurse. His voice cracked slightly, but he steadied himself. and she died because of a lie. Vanessa turned away, her arms wrapped around herself. Chief Uche lowered his head in shame. Mama and Nkechi wiped tears from her weathered cheeks. Obinna stood silently, his face a mask of controlled fury. He gestured toward a chair. Please sit. Tell us everything. Chiamaka shook his head. I will stand. I have been standing for 8 years, waiting for this moment. He pulled a photograph from the envelope and held it up. It showed a young girl with bright eyes and a shy smile, wearing a blue church dress. This is Adiz. This is who you killed. I didn't kill her. Vanessa's voice exploded across the room. It was an accident. I made a mistake. I was young, I was. You were cruel, Chiamaka said flatly. And you never stopped being cruel. He looked at Chiamaka. When I heard that another maid had been accused of theft in this house, I knew I had to come. I knew history was repeating itself. Chiamaka's eyes widened. How did you know about me? Chiamaka allowed himself a small, sad smile. I have been watching this house for 3 weeks. I needed to understand who Vanessa Uche had become. I needed evidence. He pulled out his phone and held it up. I have recordings. I have testimonies from former staff members who worked here and quit because of her abuse. I have documents showing that Chief Uche paid my family 50,000 naira to stay silent about Adiz's death, blood money that my mother refused to spend. It still sits in a box under her bed, untouched. Chief Uche stood slowly, his voice heavy with regret. I thought I was protecting my daughter. I thought if we buried the story, she would learn from it and change. I was wrong. I have carried this guilt for 8 years. Obinna turned to Vanessa, his voice cold. Did you know he was coming? Vanessa's silence was answer enough. Obinna's phone buzzed. He glanced at it, frowned, and looked at Chief Uche. Your driver just texted me. He says you asked him to bring something from your car. What is it? Chief Uche hesitated, then nodded. I asked him to bring a box. A box of things Vanessa left at my house last month. I was going through them when I found. He trailed off as the driver entered, carrying a small wooden box wrapped in cloth. Chief Uche opened it slowly. Inside were letters, old photographs, and a small voice recorder. He handed the recorder to Obinna. Listen to this. I found it 3 days ago. Obinna pressed play. At first, there was only static. Then, a voice. Vanessa's voice. I don't love him, Chitara. I'm marrying him for the money. Obinna is too soft. Too kind. He'll be easy to control. Another voice, female, laughed on the recording. What if he finds out? He won't. Vanessa replied confidently. And even if he does, I have insurance. I found documents in his mother's old study, letters about his family's land deals in Anambra. Some of them were not exactly legal. If he ever tries to leave me or cut me off, I'll threaten to release them. His precious reputation will be destroyed. The recording ended. The room was silent except for the sound of Vanessa's ragged breathing. Obinna's hand trembled as he lowered the phone. His face had gone pale, his eyes distant. My mother, he whispered. You went through my late mother's things? You were planning to blackmail me. Vanessa reached for him, tears streaming down her face. Obinna, please, I was angry when I said that. I didn't mean. Don't touch me. His voice was like ice. Vanessa's legs gave out. She collapsed onto the floor, sobbing. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Please don't leave me. I'll change. I promise I'll change. But Obinna was no longer looking at her. He was looking at Chiamaka. What do you want? Justice? Revenge? Chiamaka shook his head slowly. I do not want revenge. Revenge will not bring my sister back. But I want accountability. I want her to face the law for what she did. I want the case reopened. I want the truth to be told publicly, so that Adiz's name is cleared, and so that no other girl suffers the way she did. Obinna nodded. You'll have it. I'll make sure of it. No. Vanessa screamed, crawling toward Obinna. You can't do this to me. My reputation will be destroyed. My family will be ruined. Mama and Nkechi stood and walked over to Vanessa. She knelt down beside the woman she had raised and placed a gentle hand on her head. My daughter, your reputation is already destroyed. You destroyed it yourself. The only thing left now is to face the consequences and pray for forgiveness. Chief Uche stepped forward, his voice breaking. Chiamaka, I know I cannot undo what was done, but I want to make amends. I will support you in reopening the case. I will testify. I will tell the truth, even if it means my own name is dragged through the mud. He looked at his daughter. Vanessa, you are my child, and I love you. But I will not protect you from justice anymore. Vanessa's sobs filled the room, but no one moved to comfort her. As the police were called and preparations were made for Vanessa to be taken in for questioning, Chiamaka stood quietly near the window, watching the chaos unfold. She felt a strange mixture of relief and sorrow. Relief that justice was finally coming. Sorrow for the girl who had died before anyone could save her. Chiamaka approached her, his expression softening for the first time since he had entered the house. "You are very brave," he said quietly. "What is your name?" "Chiamaka," she replied. "Chiamaka Okoro." Chiamaka's eyes widened. "Okoro? From where?" "Nnewi." He stared at her for a long moment, then pulled out the photograph of Adiz again. He turned it over. On the back, written in faded ink, was a family tree. And there, in the corner, was a name. Chiamaka Okoro, daughter of Nkem Okoro, cousin to Adiz. "We are family," Chiamaka whispered, his voice filled with wonder and pain. "My mother told me about you. She said your branch of the family moved to Nnewi years ago, and we lost touch. She always hoped we would meet again." He smiled sadly. "Adiz used to talk about you. She said she wanted to find you one day and bring you to Nsukka to meet us." Chiamaka's hand flew to her mouth. Tears spilled down her cheeks. "I didn't know. I didn't know she was my cousin." Chiamaka embraced her, and for the first time in 8 years, he allowed himself to weep. "She sent you to me," he said. "Adiz sent you here to finish what she could not. To stand up. To fight back. To stop this woman from hurting anyone else." Obinna, who had been watching from across the room, approached them slowly. "Chiamaka," he said gently, "I owe you an apology. I brought this woman into my home. I was blind to who she really was, and you nearly paid the price for my blindness." Chiamaka shook her head. "You did not know, sir. None of us could have known until the truth was revealed. But you stood up when no one else would," Obinna said. "And because of that, lives have been saved. Justice has been served." He paused. "I want to do something for you. For your family. Please, let me help." Chiamaka smiled through her tears. "My mother is sick. My brother needs school fees. If you can help with that, I would be grateful." "It's done," Obinna said immediately. "And more. You will never have to worry about money again." As Vanessa was led out of the mansion in handcuffs, her face hidden in shame, Mama Nkechi stood beside Chiamaka and Chiamaka. She placed a hand on each of their shoulders. "You have done a great thing today," she said softly. "You have honored Adiz's memory. And you have reminded us all that courage is not about being fearless. It is about doing what is right, even when you are afraid." The sun was setting over Lekki, casting long shadows across the compound. But inside the mansion, for the first time in months, there was light. Sometimes, the greatest battles are not fought with weapons, but with courage and truth. Chiamaka was just a village girl with nothing but her dignity and her voice. But when she refused to be broken, she broke the chains that had bound others in silence for years. Adiz's story reminds us that every life matters, that justice delayed is not justice denied, and that the truth, no matter how buried, will always find its way to the light. Vanessa had beauty, wealth, and power, but she lacked the one thing that truly matters, a good heart. In the end, love, integrity, and family prevailed. Obinna learned that true character is revealed not in public, but in private. And Chiamaka discovered that sometimes, standing up for yourself means standing up for everyone who came before you. Like, subscribe, share, and comment the lesson you learned.